Hello ladies, thanks for joining me today. I have a practice put together for you that's gonna kind of really work into our hips really deeply. And I need you to have a couple of different things for props. So I like to have blocks up towards the top part of my mat for this one. And really one should be enough for you. I always just have two. But also you'll need something kind of like this size. These are just dish towels. We're gonna do some work with things underneath of our knees, and this is gonna be the best way because then we won't have to adjust too much because they can follow us with the width of our knees. So I'll kind of show you as we get there. So you can kind of shift these out of the way. I kind of have mine folded so there's a good amount of cushion ready for me. And I'll just set those to the side, and you can choose. You can be up here towards the top part of your mat because that's where we're gonna end up. But I'm gonna face you here in the middle. Either way is perfect. So you just decide what you would like to do. And just start with your feet about wider than hip width apart. So I would say bring your little toes to the outside edge of your mat, or just a good wide stance, but not your widest by any means. And we'll start with either hands to your hips, or if you would like, hands to your belly. And we'll start to close our eyes. And just start to check in here. And just kind of noticing how you feel. So maybe starting with how you feel in your feet, all the way up to your legs and into your hips. Maybe even belly and shoulders and wrists and elbows, just kind of taking a little body scan inventory here. How your breath feels in your body. And don't worry about anything yet. We're kind of going to address all of those maybe aches and pains as we shift through our practice today. So take a second, be a little soft in your knees. So that means just a little micro bend. And kind of notice as your belly rises and falls with your breath. And just notice how these movements of your body, how the simplest ones, they're nourishing your baby. So you're rocking your baby right now. You will mimic these movements to soothe your baby when they're needing that nurturance, kind of replicating how it feels inside here during pregnancy. So take a moment before we begin our movements just to thank ourselves. You did it. You made it here today. And sometimes that's the hardest part, is making time for you. So thank yourself. Then let's start some simple movements. So I'm just gonna kind of lead this movement with my hips. I'm gonna start to make some circles with hips here. And they can be simple to start. Don't feel you have to make your biggest movements. Again, bends in knees is going to be helpful here. So we're just going to slowly awaken the body. And just keep breathing just in and out through, maybe in through your nose. Out through your mouth. I'm more of a nose breather myself, so I have to remind myself all the time. And then when you feel like you're made this last circle, let's switch directions. And now that we've kind of been doing it for a moment, maybe you would like to make these movements a little bigger, and you determine. And maybe if hands to hips is now more comfortable, that's perfect too. And you can really get into it. You determine how much here. And then we'll find ourselves kind of wrapping up this circle, and we'll bring ourselves nice and tall. So again, softness into your knees. We'll extend our arms up overhead. Keep your shoulders nice and plugged in. So keeping your hands about that shoulder width apart. And we'll slowly just start to reach over towards the right side. So this doesn't have to be a big movement. If this right hand needs to come down for some support to the side of your leg, that's perfect. Kind of gives you some leverage. And we just continue just to kind of reach. We'll slowly, so draw belly muscles in, hug baby in as you make your way up nice and tall. Extend right fingertips up. And then we'll slowly start to reach over towards our left side. So getting long here. Left hand can come down for support here. And just to the side of your thigh might be perfect here. And then we start to really open. So maybe you're reaching more now. Right fingertips over towards your left side. We make our way up nice and tall. Draw belly in. Kind of use those leg muscles. Let's do each side one more time, but we'll go a little faster this time. So nice and slow. Let's kind of shift the left hip out as we reach a little more over towards our right side. Again, right hand can come down if that's better for your support here. We'll make our way up nice and tall. Same thing here. So maybe you shift your right hip out just a little, not much. And then we slowly reach over. And we slowly make our way all the way up. Let's bring our hands in front of our heart. So again, we're going to keep a bend in our knees, and I'm going to exaggerate this bend a lot more this time. So really get into this bend. So it's almost like I'm kind of coming down, getting ready for maybe a chair. And then whenever you're ready, we'll slowly start to find. So this is going to be a really, really small back bend to start. And I'll kind of show some modifications for you as we shift along. On the inhale, we just lengthen in through the front of the body. So it's a back bend, but we're just really focusing on getting long in the front of the body first. On your exhale, we'll slowly swan dive down. Take your time, no rush here. Once you're here, inhale, hands to shins, straight spine. Exhale, we fold. This inhale, we roll up on the space that's available for us in our spine until we make our way all the way to standing. Once you're all the way up, shoulders relax down, and it will find our bend in our knees once more. So kind of think about how that series felt for you, and if you needed more space. So you can always take your feet an inch or so wider if needed, just to create some more space for baby, depending on how far along you are. Hands in front of your heart when you're ready. Bend in your knees, real important here. On your inhale, we'll lengthen in through the front of the body. And on our exhale, we swan dive down. Take your time, enjoy the whole process all the way down. On your inhale, hands to shins. Lengthen out through the crown of the head. Exhale, we fold. This inhale, we roll up on the space that's available for us in our spine until you make your way all the way to standing. Once you're here, shoulders relax down, bend in knees. We'll find here, hands in front of the heart. Let's inhale, let's take the arms out real big. Exhale, we'll bring the hands back in. Let's do that one more time. On the inhale, we lengthen, we open up, maybe opening up into your chest. On your exhale, we bring our hands closer in. And pause here and just kind of check in. So sometimes when we move through series with breath, it kind of can get a little bit more challenging, especially during pregnancy. So take as much time as you need between anything that we're doing. Pause the video at any time. And we'll do one more. So when you're ready, bend in your knees. We'll inhale, lengthen. Exhale, we swan dive down nice and slow. And this inhale, hands to shins, straight spine. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, roll up on the space that's available for you in your spine until you're all the way up. Roll shoulders down. Arms, let's lengthen out. Exhale, we bring hands closer in. One more time, we inhale, we lengthen, we open up. Exhale, we bring the hands all the way back. Pause here, take a second. And we'll slowly start to step our feet in. So I'm going to go over to the top part of my mat now, and I have my blocks handy here so that they're reachable. Feet at hip width apart, hands in front of your heart to start. And just kind of check in for one moment with your feet, with your height, and maybe let's relax the hands down to our sides. And then kind of check in here with shoulders. We're going to start a few standing series. So we want to start with this nice tall foundation and kind of use this strong foundation all throughout our practice. So we're nice and relaxed here, but we're also feeling supported and tall and stacked. And so hands start to come up to our hips. Well, then from here, start to find our right foot will take a big step back. So right foot will step back. So back foot to a 45-degree angle, front knee and ankle nice and lined up. So that's the most important thing here. So we want to be nice and tall and strong into your feet. So kind of start to strengthen your feet and legs so that you're kind of pushing the ground away from you and also kind of squeezing your legs inward without shifting them too much, because we don't want the knees to shift, but we want to activate the legs so that they're just kind of squeezing and strengthening. So we'll continue this. So we'll continue up, draw belly muscles in, kind of hug baby in. Then we kind of draw up on our pelvic floor, and we'll lengthen our arms up overhead. So you can kind of choose however you'd like. Sometimes we like to bring arms just straight up overhead here. Sometimes we like arms more in kind of a goddess position or cactus arms. Whichever you like is perfect. And if you'd like a little bit more work here while we're here, you can always lengthen arms up. And then exhale, we kind of activate the arms as we lower the elbows down, squeezing the shoulder blades together. We'll inhale up. Exhale, we'll start that once more. So we slide those shoulder blades down together, elbows lower. We'll do that 2 more times. We inhale up, we exhale, we draw them down nice and strong. We'll do that 1 more time. So we inhale up, we exhale, we draw them down. So we're kind of active, almost like we're kind of showing off our muscles here. And then from here, let's bring our hands in front of our heart and start to straighten into your front leg. The back foot can come forward a little bit if you'd like, maybe about 1 inch or 2. And from here, so we'll just start to get real long, and we're going to hinge at the hips and lead with the chest. And if you're familiar with this, this is side chest stretch. So typically we would fold straight forward. So depending on where you are in pregnancy, folding straight forward might be available for you. But if you have more of a belly, you're going to need to shift a little bit more over towards the right side. So just kind of find which medium works for you. Hands in front of your heart. We'll slowly hinge at the hips and lead with the chest. We hinge forward. Pause when you start to get a nice stretch here. Belly gets real strong, really lengthening out here with the crown of your head. Let's unhinge and make our way up nice and tall. So now from here, so I'm going to kind of draw my thumbs in towards my chest this time and get a little bit more active into my upper body. So that's going to kind of balance out the lower body too. So I'm nice and strong here. So strong into my feet, strong into legs, and then belly draws in. We'll hinge the hips and lead with the chest again. Hinge forward. Nice and strong as we lower. Then we'll unhinge once more. We come all the way up. And then this time, whenever we lower down, we'll hinge at the hips and lead with the chest. We're going to come down a lot lower this time. So we're going to come all the way down to where we feel kind of relaxed. So you can use 1 block here. If you have 2, you're welcome to both. And we just bring our block on the inside of this front foot. And if you're more here and you want to extend over this leg, that's a perfect option here too. Either way is perfect. So I'm going to move this one out of the way here and just kind of focus on this block right underneath of my eye gaze here. And you can round and relax here as much as you'd like, really kind of noticing this deep stretch in the back of your leg. And just kind of take a few breaths, kind of settle in here. So you choose, so you can kind of just focus on a hamstring stretch here. But if you need some kind of more low back stretch, I recommend kind of lowering and relaxing down, maybe relaxing head and neck. And you can kind of play with those 2 options to see which one works best for you. we'll slowly start to bring a bend in our front knee. We're going to pick up our block. So my block is at its highest point, so it's real tall. And I'm going to bring my hands to the top of my block. So I have two hands steady. And then I'm going to reach my block as far forward as I can reach and start to shift my weight into my front foot, extending back leg behind me. So it's kind of, I think this is a balancing stick where it's kind of more like a forward fold, but we're just lengthening the right leg behind us. So we want to try to keep the hips a little bit more level for this variation, just kind of really finding length. So we can kind of shift out into the right heel as we extend it behind us. I always start with pointing toes just to kind of get myself in a good leverage here, and then start to shift toes down. Then we'll start to bring right foot down. Let's bring right foot a little wide so that we have some space for a forward fold, and you can step your feet a little wider if needed. And we'll slowly start to shift our block in here so that it's closer to us, because we're going to need it in a little bit. And then we'll bring one hand at a time up to our hips. We'll squeeze our shoulder blades together, really bend in your knees, unhinge to standing. Pause here for a moment. Anytime we have our head low, we take just a second before we move on. We just kind of check in here, and we just kind of notice. And then we'll take our feet in about hip width apart again. Hands come back to our hips, and we'll start to shift into that opposite side. So we'll step with our left foot back. But before we start, let's start to get strong already into our feet and legs. Strong and supported, so kind of squeezing and drawing in, kind of drawing up pelvic floor as we start to step our left foot back. So we're already getting strong for our pose. So back foot is at that 45-degree angle, front knee and ankle nice and lined up. So we're nice and strong and sturdy here. Kind of feel like we're bringing our hips so that they're facing forward. So don't move unless you need to shift with me. But from here, this point to this point, my hips are still facing forward. If you'd like to bring your arms up overhead when you feel like you have your good stance here. So good, strong into our legs, strong into feet. So kind of active here. You can even find that breath movement if you'd like, where we exhale and we bring the shoulder blades down towards one another. We slowly shift up, and we exhale. We bring the arms down. We'll just do about 2 more of these. Nice and strong, nice and active here in our pose. Let's do one more. I think we have it in us. And we'll find this one. So we'll bring our hands back down in front of our heart. We'll straighten into our front leg. So if you stepped the back foot forward about 1 inch or so last time, go ahead, do that as well. This front leg is straight, but little micro bend is perfect. I'm going to bring my hands right in front of my heart here. So I'm going to kind of press my thumbs in towards my chest. And then we can start to find ourselves lowering down. So hinge at the hips, lead with the chest as much as you'd like. And once you feel like you've got a good stretch here, let's engage into our belly, press into your feet, unhinge back up. We'll do that 2 more times. So we stay strong, so strong in legs, arms, even shoulders and hands. We're kind of pressing our palms together. Exhale, lower down. And slowly we unhinge back up, nice and slow. So this time when we lower down, we're going to stay down. So when you're ready, we exhale, we lower down. And this time while you're down, you can start to kind of find where you'd like to be. So maybe that's just reaching for ankle or calf or shin, or maybe you'd like to kind of be more over here with your block. Either one is perfect. And remember, so if we're just kind of staying more upright, so that can be here or that can be here, that's perfect. Kind of gets more stretch along the back of our leg. But if you, in addition to that, need some kind of low back release, relaxing down here is going to be much better for relaxing head, neck, and shoulders down so you can get that length here into your low back. And just find your breath, whichever variation you choose. And I like to kind of shift and kind of explore with the things that are kind of outside of my norm. So finding one more breath here. And then we'll start to bring a bend into our front knee and start to bring your block with you. So I'm going to bring it as far forward as I can reach. So remember, if you need more space over here, then I recommend it's going to be a little bit more over to the side. Otherwise, you can bring it right in alignment with your front foot. And then we slowly shift our weight into our front foot and we start to lengthen our left leg behind us. So kind of really lengthening out from the heel all the way to the crown of our head, right here. It's more like right here. And we'll slowly start to come down, but let's step the foot out kind of wide, and you can widen the opposite foot as well and relax down, forward fold. We'll come up to a nice half lift here. And then we'll start to get strong into our feet. Bend into your knees. We're going to pick this block up and bring it with us to bring our hands to our hips. So bend into your knees. Start to unhinge at the hips. Tall, long spine as you make your way up. Shoulders relax down. And then I'm going to turn so that I'm long ways on my mat so that I have a nice wide stance here. So nice and long. From here, we'll start to find just a nice wide stance. Doesn't have to be your widest. And we'll find a forward fold. So we'll have our hands to our hips again. We'll find ourselves nice and tall. So strong into your feet. And we're going to hinge here at the hips and we're going to lead with our chest. So we hinge forward. And then once you're down here, find your block, bring it right underneath of your eye gaze here. And then you can kind of play with however you would like to practice your forward fold. And there's all kinds of options. So you can just be right here, straight spine, lengthening out through the crown of your head. Or you can always relax down. You can make this pose more active so that we're kind of that upright variation. You can always just have strength into your feet and really get strong into your feet and legs, lengthening out. And that's more of an active variation with more of a straight spine. And you can hinge a little with that variation as well. And if you're really just needing something that's just going to kind of help you relax, I just recommend you kind of use your feet as support and just kind of relax here. We'll start to come to our straight spine. So if you have your feet as wide as they'll go, maybe heel toe each of your feet in about an inch and have your block so it's right underneath of your eye gaze, right hand underneath of your face here, left hand to the side of your block. And we're going to keep our torso nice and straight here. And we're going to inhale and open up just a little bit over towards our left side. So bent knees here is going to be helpful. And exhale, we'll make our way down nice and slow. Once you get back down here, switch out your hands. Left hand to the top of your block, right hand to the side of your block. And really our torso stays in this same plane, but we just kind of open our hearts open towards our right side. And even this right arm doesn't have to do anything. You can even just bring it to your hip if you prefer it. And this exhale brings us down nice and slow. And once you're here, let's relax back down for a pause. And we'll slowly start to come back up to more of a straight spine. I'm going to bring my block in just a little bit more. And then slowly start to turn my toes and heels pointed in the same direction and probably bring your heels in quite a bit. And we'll just slowly come down to a little squat here. So we won't spend a lot of time in squat because we don't have everything in the right space for it. And if you need to kind of shift your feet even closer in so that you're more on your heels here, that's perfect too. Let me just kind of settle in here for just one more breath. And then we'll slowly start to shift down. So you can bring one hand, one knee down at a time. And then we'll make our way over to our table pose. So from your table, and let's go ahead and have our little towels ready. So we're going to use our little towels today for support underneath of our knees. So we'll shift our towels so that we have our knees right at hip width apart. Feels really nice. And then we find our hands so that wrist and shoulders nice and lined up. And we'll start to initiate some movement with our pelvis. So we're just going to kind of shift into our cat-cows, but as we're doing it, we'll slowly start to just initiate the movement from our hips. So when you start to find your lengthening in through the front of the body, start to shine your heart forward. And when you start to get that roundingness into your spine, you can draw your chin in towards your chest towards your hips. So we just find this movement. And just kind of find the pace with your breath as you see that works for you here, these back and forth movements. And we'll finish this round that we're working on. So we'll finish with an exhale, and we'll find from there, we find on our next inhale, we'll come right back to our table pose, so our nice neutral spine. And then let's find our little towels kind of, and I'm going to take mine so that kind of the center of the towel is right on the center of the line, so that there's a little bit of space so that my knees are going to be right at the edges of my mat and they're nice and supported. And instead of coming down to just a regular child's pose, we're going to bring our toes in and start to lower our hips down towards our heels. And this may be a little difficult for some of us, so kind of feel like you can kind of hang out here. So that might be using a block, maybe coming down to forearms. Or it could be just coming down to forearms. Or it could be full child's pose where you relax your forehead down. And we're just going to kind of remain here for a few breaths. We'll slowly start to inch our way up. So we're just going to come up for a second, just so that we're kind of out of the pose for a moment. And you can kind of let your feet just kind of be wherever. You don't have to have the toes right next to each other anymore. And we'll just do a little twist so that we have something else to do for a moment. So right hand comes underneath of your face. Left fingertips reach up. And this exhale, we bring our hand back down. So if you need to adjust the position of your knees, maybe you need to make them come in a little bit more, that's always an option here. And you can always just be at a regular table if you need to give your knees a break and your hips. On the inhale, we'll go opposite side. And we'll slowly start to make our way back down, nice and slow, and we'll just return right to our pose. So we lower back down. And again, you can come down to forearms here. And let's see if maybe we would like to take it a little step further. So if this felt like just enough, so we have toes in towards one another, then let's stay right here. But if you feel like maybe you could get a little bit more challenge in this practice, and I'm going long ways on my mat, I encourage you, if you'd prefer, to go on the side of your mat so that your ankles and your feet are on your mat here instead of on the floor. And then we'll just kind of find same thing. So this variation though, make sure that your knees and your hips are nice and lined up. And we won't be here for very long because might be a brand new pose for us. So we just kind of find, and you can kind of relax a little bit more here, maybe kind of relaxing head and neck, and that will just get a little bit more of a stretch into your low back. So remember, any of these variations are going to work perfectly for you. So we'll start to come up. So we're going to come up to our hands and then start to bring your feet in. And then let's bring our knees all the way in for a moment. And let's just give our hips a little break for a moment. And if you need a little bit of cushion underneath of your knees here, I highly recommend it. And even if this is uncomfortable, you can always take your block and sit down on your block for a moment. Let's do something else while we're here so that we find ourselves just kind of finding a little break for our hips. So we'll lengthen our arms up overhead, and then we'll exhale, reach over towards your right side. And we'll slowly start to inch our way up. So extending arms up, exhale, left side when you're ready. And we'll slowly make our way all the way up. So once you're here, if you would like to practice that pose with me one more time, I'm going to just go into it for just a little bit. So we'll take our towel and we'll fold it back. And I'm going to take my block and bring it up here. And then I'm going to have my towels so that they're kind of right on the edge here. And I'm going to turn, so maybe you would like to turn with me. And I'm going to turn so that my towels are a little bit more, I'm going to have a little bit less resistance from the floor because the floor is real slippery. So I'm going to bring my knees in, and then so maybe you want to start out like we did before, where we just let our toes come together and we relax our forehead down. And maybe this feels good, but maybe you want a little bit more challenge. Then you can always start to shift your knees and your hips so that they're nice and lined up. So you're going to have to kind of walk your forearms a little forward. And maybe you want to start to kind of shift your ankles so that ankles and knees are nice and lined up. And you may want to just stay here on forearms. You may want to relax down. Maybe you want to stay on forearms, but you want to bring your forehead down to a block. And you can kind of play with this. So I'm going to take my knees just a little wide. Oh, that was a little much. I'm going to take my knees a little wider and then make my way back down. And you can just kind of play with it. But just remember, knees and hips nice and lined up. Ankles, and yeah, see, I had to adjust because I adjusted. And then ankles and knees nice and lined up as well. And we'll slowly start to inch our way back up, nice and slow. And let's come to kneeling again. And if you'd like to kind of take one of your towels and bring it underneath of your knees. And then we can bring a block, if you'd like, underneath of you so that we find ourselves up nice and tall. And just kind of check in here. So shoulders relax down. And take a second to allow yourself to be up nice and tall. Maybe curling the corners of your mouth. If you'd like, bringing hands to your belly. And send your baby some love. And send some of that love to yourself too. And also, thank yourself. Thank yourself for really taking the time out of your day to take care of your body. Nourishing your mind and your baby. You will be a great mother to this baby. Your baby is lucky to have you. You will have such experiences together. You will be a great mother because you already are. So thank you very much for joining me today. I always enjoy it. Thank you. And if you're interested in doing some final relaxation, maybe you need your little half yoga nap after this practice, there is a couple of video options for you to do final relaxation with me. And I give you a couple of options. One is on your side and another is a reclined pose, depending on what kind of props that you have available. And I hope you enjoyed this video with me today, and please feel free to leave me any feedback that you have on what you would like to see more of, or any kind of suggestions would be wonderful. I enjoyed this experience with you, and I can't wait to see you again. So thank you so much.